Hi, I have a story to tell you. There once was a man named Naaman. He was a commander of this great Syrian host, an army that was fierce, known for battle. And Naaman was renowned, courageous, a fierce warrior. But he had a problem. He had leprosy, an excruciatingly painful disease with raised areas, pustules, weeping sores, a mess. And it was so infectious that if you had it, when someone came anywhere in your vicinity, you had to yell out, leprosy, leprosy, and warn them away so that they wouldn't get infected. But he must have been a good guy because in spite of having leprosy, he was still the commander of the Syrian army. He commanded respect, and the king favored him. Well, at that time, Syria had won a battle against Israel, and they had taken some of their people captive. And in Naaman's household, there was a little young girl who, well, maid actually, that tended to the wife of Naaman. And she saw Naaman one day and said to the wife, I wish that Naaman knew of and lived in the area that I come from, because there's a prophet there and he could be healed. Well, you know how it is when you talk, somebody's bound to hear. Well, word got to the king, and the king sent for Naaman and told him, listen, there's a maid in your house that says there's a chance you could be healed from this leprosy. So I'm going to send you to this prophet in Israel. And you go there. I'm not going to send you empty-handed. I'm going to give you gold and silver and goods in payment for your healing. Naaman was like, okay. So as Naaman prepared for the journey, the king sent the letter. Well, the king of Israel got the letter. And as the kids say, he crashed out, meaning that he went to pieces. He tore his clothes. He started weeping and wailing, and because he thought it was a setup for the king of Syria to come in and reconquer him, beat him up again, and take more stuff. So while he was wailing and carrying on, word got back to Elisha the prophet. Elisha came to him and said, why are you acting like this? And he showed him the letter and said, I think he's trying to find an excuse to start a quarrel. Elijah said, no, when he gets here, send him to me. Well, that kind of soothed the poor king. He said, okay. Now, mind you, this was a 100-mile trip. And back then, there were no cars, no buses, no airplanes, no subways, no trains. If you went on foot power, horsepower, or camel power with a chariot, that was it. So it wasn't going to be no couple of hours or a couple of days. It was a while. You had to really be wanting to get to a destination to take a 100-mile trip in those days. So Naaman made the trip. And he finally got to the palace where the king was. Well, the king told him, he brought him in, gave him the honor that he deserved, and said, I need you to go to the prophet Elisha's house. Naaman said, okay, and went to the prophet Elijah's house. Now remember, this is a great man. And he gets to Elisha's house, and a messenger comes to the door and says, my Lord, my master Elijah says, go to the Jordan River and wash 7 times. In other words, dip down, and you'll be healed. And shuts the door. Naaman was insulted. What? He couldn't even come out the house to say hello, something. Oh, come on. I at least thought he was going to come out, put his hands on his chest, cry out to his God, say something over me, lay hands on me, and then I was going to be healed. He couldn't even come out. And then he going to send me to old muddy, dirty Jordan River. It's cleaner rivers in my country. Oh, and Naaman went on a rant. He was outraged. In the meantime, his servants sat there. Now, mind you, they walked too. And whereas Naaman was in the chariot, not everybody was in the chariot. Some people had to use foot power. So they waited till the rant was over. And one of them came to him and said, "Sir, you're a man of courage. If he'd asked you to do a courageous thing, wouldn't you have done it? He's just asking you to go to Jordan River and dip 7 times. Naaman must have thought about it. And even though he was not happy, decided, like they said, what's to lose? So he went. Can you imagine how he must have felt the first 6 times? Probably thinking this ain't even working. But the 7th time, and as a sidebar, he obeyed the instructions, even though he was in his feelings, even though he didn't like how he was treated. He obeyed the instructions to the letter. He did the 7 times. And on the 7th time, he came up clean, clear, and healed. He rushed back to Elijah's house, and Elijah was there to meet him. And he thanked him, said of a truth he knew that Elijah's God was the God of the whole earth. And asked him, could I bless you? I have gold and silver and goods, and I just want to show my appreciation and thank you. Elijah said no, because Elijah knew that all the glory, all the honor, all the credit, all the praise belonged to God and God alone. He said, thank you again, and he left. Now, there's more to the story. There's actually a cautionary tale following this episode, but that's a story for another time. When he left, it got me to thinking. Sometimes we're told to do something by our pastors or our leaders, or even God may speak to your heart and tell you to do something, and it just doesn't make sense. Or you may be asking for something, and you got in your mind how you think it should be done, or how it's going to be done, or how it's going to come, and it doesn't. He may ask you to do something that's simple, but it's just not in your comfort zone. And you think about it. And the question I thought was, will you be willing to obey in spite of our feelings, our issues, our objections, in spite of our ego, pride, in spite of leaning to your own understanding? Are you willing to do what's necessary and what you're asked in order to get the blessing? I just thought I'd ask that, not only of you, but also of myself. Be blessed. Know that God loves you. It's a journey. Take care.